Hey everyone, and welcome to Already Cancelled. I am Peter, that is Connor, and we are going to talk about Star Trek The Next Generation Season 1, Episode 19. It's called Heart of Glory. So, full spoilers for the episode as always. And we have a Klingon episode. We have a Worf-focused episode. Finally, after 18 episodes of really
Yeah,
not a lot of them, just kind of being there and in the
kind of been
background.
around. Yeah, it's funny because obviously we at the end of the episode we look at what the next one is, and
Mm-hmm.
the description talked about Ferengi ships and stuff,
Yeah.
and I'm like, technically that is true,
It's,
but
it's,
somewhat misleading.
it's brought up. In fact,
Yeah.
hell, even the episode itself mentions Talarians because it's a Talarian ship they're on.
Mm.
And I've been informed that Talarians are pig-like aliens, so I'm sure we're going to see them at some
Okay.
point. But yeah, so it's one of these episodes where they discover a ship and it's like something's happened here. It's mostly derelict. It's quiet. We have to investigate it, and they eventually find the three Klingons. And this is interesting because it's the first time I've actually met Klingons in this show outside of Worf.
Mm.
So how do we deal with him interacting with other Klingons? How do they feel about him being on a starship? And so on and so on. And these are all things we kind of get into in the episode. And we get some mythology. We even get some new Klingon stuff that's kind of separate to that even. Just like how do they, mourn their passing? How do they deal with death? That's something that's brought up in this episode. Something that I think may actually kind of contradict stuff that was on Discovery.
I don't recall.
I think there may have been. I feel like there was like a completely different death like ritual or whatever on Discovery or something, or at least mentioned. I feel like there's been some.
I don't know.
And
Could be different groups of Klingons, so
I'm not blaming this show for that though. I'm blaming Discovery for that.
yeah. I'm just saying, in Discovery, the Klingons, at least at the start, are a lot more separated into their family. Maybe they have like slightly different approaches.
Sure, yeah, okay. Alright, if you want to explain it that way, you could. Yeah.
I mean that would work for me. I mean, maybe I am just writing an excuse, but
Yeah. So we have these and they're brought on board. I mean, to be honest, the first like 5-10 minutes is just like it's Data, Geordi, and Riker searching the ship, and it's a decent little sequence of them like kind of like creepily walking around the ship and
looking through Geordie's visor.
Looking into George's visor. At one point, Picard basically forgets they've got a mission because he's too enamored with this is what you see all the time, Geordie. Oh, this is fascinating. Tell me about this. Like, how do you
like, how do you make any sense?
I was like, well, I just do it this way. And Riker's like, hey, Captain, I hate to interrupt, but we should probably get on with it. Especially like 5 minutes later when they've been searching for the ship a little bit more. We find out there's like 5 minutes until the thing like just detonates and like collapses. And I'm like, yeah, Picard, maybe we should let them get on with the job a little bit.
Yeah.
Have we had many examples before now of Data like just flat out having super strength? If you want to call it that. I mean, I don't know if you call it he's a robot, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, I think I always assumed he had, just because he's
it makes sense.
He's made out of some sort of metal alloy.
But I don't know if we've had actually like a scene like this before where it's like, okay, this door is about because Riker's about to phase it, and he's like, no, you can't do that because of all the gases and stuff that's like creeping around.
Yeah,
and he's like, okay, well, I'll do it. And he just kind of
it feels like a natural follow. Was it last episode or the one before where he's dodging the lasers? Yeah,
so naturally, so he's got dex and he's got strength.
Yeah,
he's the ultimate party member.
Full party on himself.
Yeah, and your Dungeons and Dragons game, Data's got it all. He's got it all, baby. So they find the Klingons and they bring them on board. And Worf immediately is like, hey, can I come with you, Captain? You go speak to them. And I'm like, okay, this is interesting. What we're doing here with Worf. And it does kind of delve slightly into, like, is Worf going to, like, side with them and want to betray the Enterprise? And Picard and Riker kind of muse the possibility that it's not so much they expect him to, it's just more like, just in case.
Yeah.
We won't necessarily, say it, but we get some interesting mythology out of it, and ultimately, this other Klingon ship shows up. It turns out everything they've said about fighting a Ferengi ship was a lie. It was actually they in this new world where the Klingons are at peace with the Federation. They are longing for the old days, and they're fugitives from the Klingon Empire because they want to run off and be proper, as they see it, proper Klingons. So the Klingons chasing them are the Klingons that are at peace with the Empire. The Federation, the Empire. Stupid Star Wars terminology sneaking into that speech. I'm not happy about this. I'm not happy.
I didn't even have to do anything this time.
I feel dirty. Yeah, I'm glad you're dying over there. The audio people
Oh.
can't hear it, but he muted his mic there because he's coughing.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm
The
glad
laugh
he's in
just
pain.
triggered it. It's leftover from this illness.
Dear. So, so yeah, so the Klingons are like hunting them because no, these are, basically like neo Nazis essentially. Not that not that Klingons themselves view classic Klingons as Nazis, but kind of like they want to go back to the old ways. They don't want.
Sure.
This piece, they see this has been against their core coding, and they try to convince Worf that because actually behind some backstory stuff for Worf this episode, he actually hasn't spent as much time as we thought with his fellow Klingons. He was basically adopted at an early age because it's basically Michael's backstory from Star Trek Discovery. His family was killed, and a human Starfleet officer took him in and raised him, and he's even got a foster, like I think it was brother, he said. Who presumably is human. So,
and he was raised on a farming colony.
Yeah. So Worf's got a very different, and I kind of like that's why maybe Worf is more civilized with everyone else than maybe other Klingons we meet, because he's actually been raised completely separate from them.
Yeah. What was the phrase they used? They said, "Oh, how young are you?" Taking it was before like the joining, the something.
Yeah.
It's like some rite of passage.
I was thinking of some sort of like I was kind of thinking of bar mitzvah kind of like age.
Yeah.
From what he said. Yeah.
Yeah. It was young, like probably like single digits equivalent.
I was still thinking maybe 12, 13, but yeah.
Fair enough. I was thinking like 8, 9, but I mean not that far apart really.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he speaks Klingon, and he still seems everything we've seen with Worf. He still seems to like know a lot about Klingons, and like he's not alien to them. So I was thinking more it's like Kara, Supergirl, where she was old enough to still remember being on Klingon.
That's why I was thinking around 8 or 9. Like it wasn't he wasn't too young.
Yeah. So now we find out about Worf, and it's good to know. It's interesting. And I like that we kind of have these three different versions of Klingons in this episode. We have Worf, who's maybe the most human in the sense that he's serving on Starfleet. He was raised with humans, and while he still obviously is very Klingon compared to the actual humans, he is the most kind of I don't want to say civilized necessarily, but he's the most at peace. Whereas you have then next up you have the actual Klingons who are chasing the fugitives, who are still fully part of the Klingon world. They're the Klingon empire or whatever, but it's law and they're at peace with the Federation. As was set up in Star Trek 6. So we have like the kind of the official line and that's the majority of Klingons now. But then you have these extremists who believe in the old ways, who are like full on Klingon and want to fight all the time and want to
makes sense.
The honor of battle and all the rest of it. So I'm liking, from a mythology standpoint, we're kind of getting these, because we're still in a sort of transition sort of period for Klingons where it's still relatively recent in the grand scheme of things that they've been at peace with the Empire.
Idea that it's not just Klingons as one entity, right? It's there are varying factions between them, in the same way there is, in all the other cultures and civilizations.
Well, in humans, specifically. Well, that's one of the things that sci-fi can often, because they don't usually have enough time to do it, is that ultimately any alien species tends to just be boiled down to one type of thing. And I think because we've had so much Star Trek now, even just at this point, between 3 seasons of the original series and now a few movies and then season 1 of this, we're at a point now where the Klingons are well developed enough that we have different types of Klingon, and we clearly understand them, and they're developed enough that we understand, where they're all coming from and why one's different from the other. And it's the sort of thing where your human beings are so different. How many like religions, how many social classes, how many there's so many differences in human beings. And one of the things that you can criticize science fiction for a lot is that an alien race will boil down to one stereotype, and that's it. And it's not necessarily a fault in the writing. It's just that you can only set up so much. You can only go into so much when you're setting up.
When you've got a 2-hour movie, you've got to be tighter, haven't you?
So I like that at this point we're at a point with Klingons at least where we have these differences, and I'm sure it wouldn't surprise me if we get to that point with Vulcans, and we get to that point maybe with Ferengi, and whoever else. And I'd argue maybe even the Borg, because of is it 7 of 9 who becomes the main character on Voyager, I think.
I'll tell you what for it.
Yeah. So no. So I like that element of it. I like the deepening of Klingons, and now they're not just the stereotypical one-off like Klingon you have in your head. It's like no. they are a complete race of people with differences in factions and different belief systems, and they're diverging, and I like that a lot.
Yeah, definitely. This episode of Clark's obviously we got they brought the Romulans again because the ship was in the neutral zone, and because like Romulans, haven't heard about them in a while.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, good point. You haven't.
Neither have we. It was like season 2 of Trek, maybe.
Yeah, it's been a while. Yeah. It was more of just a hey, remember this is a thing, this exists.
Yeah,
which means I'm sure we're going to get to it at some point.
It's funny, despite the fact that it's still very much standalone episodes, I do feel like Next Gen so far seems to be adhering to more of the greater mythology. And it is so much of at least all the stories that are taking place are adding to the tapestry, as opposed to being, and there's some forgettable episodes, sure, but I feel like more often in the original series we're getting like more plugins to like, okay, let's expand Klingons, let's expand, these new races, Ferengi, Talarians.
I would also say it feels more sequential. Since the original series, I was obviously sure you can say this took place after this episode, but large portions of it you could watch in any order, and it wouldn't really make any difference.
Yeah, for the most part, there's a couple of things that I'd say you have to have towards the end because it feels like the shared adventures have accumulated at that point. And,
definitely. Yeah. There are things there, but mostly that feeling's not there too much. Whereas here, I feel is doing a better job of, obviously we're still at the same status quo every episode.
Yeah.
At the end, but it feels like there's a little bit more character development per episode.
Yeah, well, and it's a great conversation with TV about how things developed to be more serialized. But the 90s were this transition period where you had shows that were doing full-on serialization like Babylon 5, and I think Deep Space Nine also gets thrown into that. But you also had the transition shows like the hit television show Buffy the Vampire Slayer, where you had the overall plots, but you also had Freak of the Week episodes, and it was kind of a mix. And because I grew up watching shows like that, to me that was the normal thing from my childhood that I expected to be normal, where you have a season-long plot, but you have a lot of standalone episodes mixed in, and that kind of thing.
Yeah, that was the norm for quite a while,
and I'm okay with that still being a thing. I feel like since things have went full on serialization, very few of those have been attempted, and the ones that have not been that great necessarily. There's some exceptions, but
yeah, I mean, there's only a handful of ones on right now that I'd say are even worth watching out of what I've checked out.
Yeah, I think something because even iZombie, iZombie though. I mean, it's got the case of the week usually, but yeah, I'd say that's the closest we have, right? At least that's the things I like.
yeah, exactly. Things we like. There's a difference, but that's pretty close.
Whereas maybe this is like a pre-transition period where it's just touching at it. It's just touching at the idea of the ongoing mythology.
It's poking there, and last time we had the Admiral being like, "Hey, there's something going on," and
that's right.
Maybe we'll come back to that eventually, right? But it's there now. It's in the back of our heads. As there's something. We're talking here about the world with the Klingons, reminding us that the Romulans are out there, etc. It feels like it's quite fleshed out at this point. Most of a season in now.
Yeah, I agree. So yeah, we have the Klingons with Worf, and they're kind of testing them and prodding at him. They find out about his backstory, and they kind of ask him to show them around the ship, which felt a bit sketchy to me. I was like, Worf, maybe question security measures here.
Yeah.
I really liked when they're first coming aboard, the first beaming aboard from the other ship, and Picard says to Tasha, take a security detail down for them being there. And before she goes, and obviously one that just shows that he's like, just in case they are going to be hostile, let's make sure we're being safe. But the second thing he says to her is, Lieutenant Yar, you know what you're dealing with here, right? And I like the idea that combat with the Klingons has been kind of rare for a while because it has been 60, 70 years of peace. Yeah. But it's kind of like, hey, when Klingons are in fighting mode, you've maybe not dealt with this before in your career, Tasha, because obviously you've just been active for 10 years or whatever it's been. I thought that was interesting. It was like, hey, if those Klingons are ready to fight, this is different from anything you've probably ever fought before.
Yeah, it's true. It was a nice touch.
Yeah, I like that. So sure enough, they get detained when they find out they're fugitives. There's a scene where the Tasha and the security detail come to apprehend them, and Worf is kind of caught in the middle because Picard makes the choice not to tell Worf in advance. He just sends the team after them.
Yeah,
and it's kind of like there's nothing really to suggest that Worf even is actually considering even turning his back on the Enterprise, but there's just kind of people are thinking he might, and the Klingons think they might convince him. But it's not necessarily like, even though we get ending this sort of cliffhanger moment for the ad break where it's a close up of Worf's face and the music ramps up, it's like, which side will Worf pick? I don't know if in his head he's ever actually like weighing it up and going.
I don't think from Worf's perspective he ever is, but I think it works because the rest of the crew are thinking it.
Yeah.
So it's not so much that we're going, oh, is Worf thinking it? We're kind of with the crew.
And there's a neat trick here as well, where the turbo lift behind them opens, and this little girl runs out from her mother, and the Klingon dude like picks her up, and Tasha's like, "Bridge, we've got a hostage situation," and Worf is just kind of like, "Come on here," without saying anything. Here, give me the kid, and he takes the kid and gives her back to her mother, and this scene plays really well because it's kind of like, oh, that kind of deflated the tension and maybe showed that Worf was never, going to turn his back on the Enterprise. Yeah. And Tasha clearly thinks that as well, and she says, "Oh, I thought we almost had a situation there." And Worf says, "No, that's not our way. We don't take hostages. We're Klingon. Like that's a coward thing to do."
Yeah. She was never in danger.
Yeah. But I like what that scene does, because like I think you still feel relief when Worf like takes the kid, because you're like, okay, Worf's not going to harm the kid, obviously. But at the same time, I like it because it kind of subverts your expectations, saying, "Hey, no, you don't understand their culture here. You're making assumptions," and Worf's like, no, there was never a problem, because that's just not how Klingons operate.
Yeah.
And I like that, and it wasn't like Tasha was because Tasha's assumption is completely fine. Like, there's nothing weird about her assumption here. The Klingon picks up a kid, and she's like, "Shit, he's got a hostage."
If anything, it just shows she doesn't know enough about Klingons.
Yeah, but it's not like. It's not like she's assuming the worst about someone. She knows he's a fugitive. He picks up a kid when he's about to be arrested. Yeah. Like, like if this was a human being, she'd assume the same thing.
No, she would.
Yeah.
I'm saying, if anything, she didn't know it. She was ill-informed too much that she didn't realize that this wasn't actually the way the situation should have been read. She was reading it as if it was a human. Yeah,
exactly. So they put them in detention, but of course they've got like hidden parts of guns hidden in their shoes, and they assemble a little laser rifle and break their way out. One of them gets killed. Actually, credit to the red shirts, in spirit, of course. They're not actually wearing red.
Put up a bit of a fight, didn't they?
They put up a bit of a fight. They actually take out, because there's two Klingons here. They take out the second one. But the first one obviously puts them down. So two of them die, but the second one, to his credit, actually takes out a Klingon first. So it doesn't feel like just a full-on red shirt moment. It feels like, no, you went for it. And it kind of ends up in this kind of situation where the Klingon gets into the, where the main thingamabob is, the drive.
Crystals.
Yeah, the lithium crystal engine, the thingamajig. All the angry Star Trek nerds are going to be typing it in the comments. So this is what it's called.
The techno babble bit.
And it's like, hey, he can literally destroy the ship from in there. All he has to do is fire his phaser into the drive. And it's like, okay, Worf, you go in and talk to him. And it escalates, and Worf has to take him out. He tries to talk him down, but it doesn't work, and he has to take him down. And it's also notable that Worf tries to plead in their case as well. When the other Klingon ship gets close enough and they're on video call, he's like, "Hey, can I talk to him, Captain? I'd like to try and appeal." And Picard's like, "Yeah, granted." And to Worf's credit, every time he goes off book in this episode, he asks for permission before he does.
He does, yeah, absolutely.
Every single time. And he goes up to the, he pleads for his life. He says, "Hey, send them to this planet. Let them sort of live out their days in peace, as a warrior, as they want to." They don't necessarily, because this feeling they have, this drive they have, I do feel it as well, kind of. Like, obviously, I'm overcoming it, but I do sympathize because I feel it deep down. And the Klingon on the other end, the commander's like, "Yeah, we all do." But
it's like, let them die with weapons in their hand. Don't just execute them.
Yeah. He's like, "Yeah, we all feel that way, but we all have to go over it." And that kind of leads to what Worf says in the scene with the what's his name, actually, the lead Klingon that we're dealing with, Conmal, Lieutenant Conmal, who I glanced on Wiki, and I was looking this up afterwards. The actor playing him plays like 10 different Star Trek characters over the next 10 years.
One of those.
Yeah, I presume that he's a different alien every time though. So we
it's mostly in makeup.
Yeah, but he's like, "Hey, no, like true strength is like, being able to suppress those. It's overcoming those desires. It's having honor as well on top of just the glory. You can't just you have to have what you're doing is dishonorable, and what you're doing is discrediting your what you see as this noble soldier act." It was a really interesting mythology episode, especially obviously for the Klingons specifically, and for Worf. as a character. The episode ends with him saying to Picard, like, I have no intention of leaving the Enterprise. I never did.
Yeah, because the other Klingon basically goes, hey, after you finish your tour of duty with the Enterprise, you're welcome to come join us.
Yeah. And he says, oh, thank you very much. I will keep that in mind, and or whatever he says. And Picard and Riker are looking at him. He's like, I was just being polite, Captain.
Yeah.
And then he walks away and he makes this point of turning around and saying, no, seriously, Captain, I have no intention of leaving the Enterprise. And obviously Picard says, yeah, the bridge wouldn't be the same without you. But do you know what I like about that moment? It's a simple little thing. It's not just that he says to them, I was just being polite. He's self-aware enough to realize a second later that he really needs to emphasize it. Like, that wasn't enough to really put them at ease. And he does. So, it's been a pretty good episode.
This is one of the best.
This is one of the best of the season, for sure. I like this one quite a bit.
It's only because in terms of its purpose, being the backstory episode, it's very similar to, we had a Picard one, we've had a Data one more recently. This is probably the best of those because it didn't feel like just his exposition about this character's backstory, which the Data one especially did.
Yeah, I think partly it's because we have this interesting idea of like, oh, how do other Klingons see Worf? How do they feel about him being on a starship? Yeah. How do they feel about there was a lot of interesting like drama in there that we've not really had a chance to see before, and that made it really interesting. So
it was a good one. This
it was good. Yeah. Also another point, when Geordi looks at Data, he sees like an aura around him, and is surprised to learn when Picard says, "Yeah, we don't all see an aura around Data," because he says, "Of course I see an aura around. He's an android." And Picard's like, "Wait, do you think we see an aura around him?"
Yeah.
He's like, "You don't, man. Humans with eyeballs are weird."
It's not wrong.
Oh dear. Yeah. There's a lot of good little things. I mean, obviously the big stuff, the mythology stuff's really good, but there's a lot of little moments where I like how they handle just these little beats where Worf, reiterates it again at the end, and it feels natural. It doesn't feel like he's just like repeating his point, or just little things with Geordi's eyesight, or little things with the death ritual, and because the Data points out that that's the first time, as far as they know, is that anyone's ever seen this that's not a Klingon, or the first time that humans have seen it. Yes. At least. That's also interesting. So, and a little detail I like, the first time they do that, when the third Klingon they bring aboard dies because he's already injured, and they're doing this little ritual, when the two Klingons start like sort of howling into the sky, as it were, Worf takes a second. He kind of looks at them doing it first, and then like sort of like realizes he should also do it. He doesn't instinctively do it together with them. And again, it's a little detail I liked. It was like, yeah, he's a Klingon, but he's clearly not necessarily as accustomed to all the rituals. And
it's obviously something he remembers, but it wasn't just a reaction for him to do it.
Yeah, it was that thing where I remember being in school and you'd have to go to this stupid like service in Easter or whatever, and like everyone would stand up to sing the stupid song, and I'd be like not paying attention, and everyone would stand up, and I'd be a second like, oh, I'm standing up now, okay.
Yeah, when to stand, sit, kneel in church.
Oh well, it was no kneeling. It wasn't a Catholic thing, but yeah.
But I get the feeling, the idea of yeah, it's that one.
Oh, it's time for that. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, and then obviously you're just moving your mouth when they're singing. You don't know what you're singing. You're just like, man. No one can tell you're not singing. It's fine.
I was always in the orchestra, so I never had that problem.
You were behind them. You didn't have to pretend.
Yeah. We were off in the corner, just sat there going, we don't have to take part in this.
You were too busy. You were too busy blowing into an instrument.
No, it's bowing.
Oh, you were violin. That's right.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough. All right.
But you have to pretend to sing.
That's true. Yeah. No. Yeah. I mean, theoretically, the violinist could sing while they're playing violin, but I don't imagine it's easy.
No, it wouldn't be. And also, I didn't have to do any lessons those days because there'd be like different services for different.
Oh yeah, I used to be in the school swing band for the Christmas shows and that. So for the 2 days before that show, I'd get to skip all the classes. And I used to
rehearsals.
Yeah, and I used to be on the stage crew as well. So I'd have rehearsals for the performances, and then I'd have rehearsals for we'd do the full run, so that we'd be like practicing running out with the equipment and.
Yeah. But no, this was because obviously the church, the hall wasn't big enough for the whole school at once, so it'd be split up.
We had
And
this
then
huge, not a cathedral, but it was a really big church for the Easter thing.
oh right, okay. No,
So
we didn't. We just we had just like a priest come in and do it in the hall, but it wasn't big enough. So you'd have literally like 5 services over the day to cover the school.
this wasn't.
So
I mean, this was literally just Christmas and Easter. We did this. This was.
yeah.
Or
Even
maybe
those
the
though,
maybe the end of the year as well. I can't remember.
yeah, like the Easter one. Obviously, it's the most topical right now.
Last couple of years though, I got a note saying I was an atheist, so I didn't have to go.
So what did you do for an hour?
Went home.
Oh, was it the last thing of the day?
Yeah, it was always after lunch at the end of the day.
Right, okay. See, because that's the thing. Because obviously mine was split up, so it was, there'd be the youngest students would have it first thing in the morning, and the oldest would have it.
What do you mean? What
at
did you
the
do
end.
for an hour? Did you never have free periods in high school?
No, not until you were over 16.
Oh, my last year of high school I had like days where I had like 2 out of 6 periods of actual stuff to do.
No. My school split into 5-hour-long periods, and you had something every hour until
5
until you were at
periods?
least 16. Yeah,
Madness.
5-hour-long ones, and then a half-hour break, and then a 35-minute break.
No lunch hour? What madness is this?
No, just that. But I mean, I imagine we might have finished a little bit earlier than you, based on this, if we only had 5 lessons and shorter break.
Maybe, but I mean, I don't know, weird Catholic school nonsense. That's been Star Trek though. That has been.
Yeah. What's next time?
A pretty solid episode. Was that?
What's next time?
Oh yeah, what's next time? Yeah, we do that then, don't we? Episode 20, which we'll be doing next time, is called The Arsenal of Freedom.
It's a good title.
Is this because you like Arsenal, the football team?
God, no.
Okay.
I think because Arsenal implies array of weaponry,
Ooh.
but freedom. So there's this irony.
I recognise an actor in this, just from the image. I'll save my reference for next time, but he was on. For God's sake, he was on something.
Was he on a hit television series?
Oh, he was. He was, baby. So the Enterprise encounters a planet long dead, but technical equipment still functions for the purpose of selling off its arsenal, along with self-sufficiency. Who's selling it then?
That's a good question. We'll find out in a week's time.
I'm actually not sure what that means exactly, but we'll find out next time.
I don't know if it sounds good or bad though.
There's an image of Riker hiding behind a bush.
I'm in.
Yeah, that should be good. Ratings similar to this week though. Yeah, it's 1 decimal point down again. Honestly, I think this one was much more than 1 decimal point off from last week, because I remember last one only. Because last episode was a 7.2 average rate, and this one's 7.3. I think this one was significantly better than last episode, but
I think 7.3 is probably fair for this episode. I think the last one was a bit higher than it should have been.
Yeah, I'd give this a good solid 7.5.
Yeah,
I think 7.5. Maybe an 8 and a push. I don't know. I think it's probably an 8 for this season's standards, but if I look at the show as a whole, once we get to good episodes, this is probably a 7.5.
we're assuming and hoping.
Yeah, well, I've heard really good things about various things. So that is a Heart of Glory. So let us know what you thought of the episode in the comments below. Like and subscribe, all that stuff. Get us on the Twitters at mailed_fudge for channel updates. If you want to support the channel and the show and everything we do here, you can head over to patreon.com/mailfuzztv, where you can support us for as little as $1 per month. You get some stuff early, including these Star Trek reviews. You get some bonuses and exclusives every month. But you can feel nice and fuzzy inside for supporting us. And check out other stuff we do. We have other classic TV reviews. I mean, I'm casually working through Babylon 5 on my own. Me and Tower do classic Twilight Zone stuff. And then, of course, check out our movie reviews and comic book stuff and everything else we do, because there's a lot of it. But that is us. So thank you once again for watching or listening. We always appreciate it. Keep watching Star Trek. And to everyone but Connor, live long and prosper.